for investing in the Shareholders podcast. Monty back once again, man. God is good. I can't even tell you how I'm excited for this one. This is, you're going to know for me, this is right in my wheelhouse here. But I have two amazing people who have entrepreneured and created something great, and I can't wait to talk to them. I have Miss Alicia Hemphill. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Monty. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you for being on. And I have also Mr. Dwayne Washington. Sir, how you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Monty. We appreciate you.
So guys, you know, sometimes the beauty of social media is you get to just stumble on some things that are really amazing and awesome. And, you know, I was just minding my own business and scrolling through, and I saw an advertisement for something, and the name itself just shocked me. I was like, wait, what is that? You know, I was like, wow. And it said Ebony-opoly. And so my mind immediately sounds like, I said, that kind of sounds like Monopoly, but I just happened to just click on it. It was a nice little, you know, ad. I clicked on it, and sure enough, it was a, if you will, African-American version of Monopoly. Now, y'all, if you know about Monty and I'm highly competitive to the point my family knows I stopped playing the games on Thanksgiving and stuff because I just get too crazy with it. But any kind of game, you know, I'm nuts. And I love Monopoly. And I have a couple of different themed Monopolies here at my house. And so when I saw this, I said, oh, wait a minute now, we doing this? I said, they didn't took it up a notch. So let's go to the first immediate question for either of you guys. What made you want to make a game of Monopoly based on African-American experience?
Well, and it's a really long story, so I'll try to shorten it, but it kind of came on the heels of two other things. Alicia was doing a lot of study around the women in the movement, something that definitely does not get enough attention. The women that were behind all the civil rights things that are going on. A lot of times we hear the big names, but we don't hear what really drove them. And without these women, the movement would not have happened. And while she's doing that study, and she's a friend of mine and a client of mine, I own a film company, we were preparing to, we were putting together like this film piece that kind of explains how African Americans got where we are. We always talk about, you know, all these socioeconomic indicators that African Americans are pretty much at the bottom of, and with no explanation. And so we were utilizing kind of like a hacked up version of Monopoly to kind of help explain that. So imagine that you're playing Monopoly, but you're playing with the rules of the year that we give you. And to make a really long story short, imagine that you're playing in 1619 and you have three Caucasian people and one African-American male. Well, the African-American male in 1619, you don't even have dice. Right? You're owned by somebody. There's no mobility at all. And that, you know, goes on for hundreds of years. And so as we were kind of doing that, trying to build this piece, and, you know, we kind of came together, Alicia was like, hey, you know, I told her all about the project. And she said, hey, how much is that game? I said, well, it's not, you know, it's not for sale. You know, it's just kind of this thing we're putting together to, you know, for this other thing. And she was like, no, you need to sell that. And I'm like, it's not really for sale. She's like, hey, I will help you. I will come in. And at first she was like an investor, and she's like, nope, I want to be a partner. And we worked together with our other partner in Israel, Dr. Plummer, and my assistant here, Ms. Sharisha Watson. And we worked for a couple months to do a lot of research and put together a game that is impactful, that is powerful, that is fun to play, and that is extremely educational.
Oh man. So Alicia, what really just kind of triggered you to say, no, I gotta really be a part of this when you saw that?
Because one thing Dwayne didn't share is that this really occurred, or this precipitous meeting really occurred right around the time where there was so much upheaval and reaction to the George Floyd murder. And so as a people, I think everybody was trying to figure out, what do we do to make a difference? Like, this is our moment, this is our time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm also part of a ministry called Covenant Daughters Ministries International by Dr. Plummer, who's in Israel. She wanted to bring African-American families back to the table. And so we instituted this program called Black Family Fridays, where one day a week on Fridays, the TV is shut down, internet is, not the internet, but your phones are off. And we cook a meal and come around the table. And so we wanted to, this is what, there are many ways that we can react to the dynamics of our society or things that are going on. And so this was our way that we wanted to lay a foundation for good and a positive, we wanted a positive response. And so there were like these three ideas floating around. Dwayne's, of course, had the original concept. I wanted to see identity relayed in our children, and I wanted that communication from generation to generation. Dr. Plummer wanted to bring women and men and children back around the table. Look, the reality is the strength of our families, throughout history has been the strength of our people. So all together, in that moment, I saw the opportunity to accomplish all three goals with one game. And so that's why I was very adamant with my business partner that this was our moment, this was our time, and this is what we could do. And that's all we're responsible for. So that was the reasons why it was just an urgency in my spirit and soul that we do this.
Wow, that is awesome. That's such a great answer. So I like to ask this, because there is one thing to have an idea and man, it'd be great. And, y'all know, man, I want to write a book or I want to do this or that. And it's just an idea, but we don't really get into the brass tacks of the implementation of it. So what, if you guys could take me into what really goes into developing a game? Like somebody might see this and be like, man, I ought to do that, but you don't really know how to get started. You have an idea, but like, how do we design the board and how do, you know what I'm saying? Could you just kind of get into some of the behind the scenes of actually putting this together?
It's interesting because we do get asked that a lot, especially by like other game developers that are trying to do that. And ironically, last week, I found the picture of the exact day that we came up with the idea. It was September 12th, 2020. Okay. And 9 months later, we had a game. Like literally from inception, conception to delivery, it was 9 months. And I will say this, that whenever you put your mind on something, and I'll give you some specifics, but just in general, when you put your mind on something, you start moving forward. I always say the same thing. If you take the first step, God takes the next 52. Things just kind of show up. And so we just kind of went for it. Now, it's not like we didn't have any, we're actually doing a whole documentary on all the stuff that went right, went wrong. Because a lot of this stuff is on faith. Hopefully we'll get to it. But I mean, the very first thing we did is we said, okay, we want this game, but we want all of these things to mean something. A lot of people don't know, like the original Monopoly game, all those places are real, but people don't know it.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make this, not only make it real, but we want people to know what they meant. So, let me show you just real quick. It like these cards here, like when you get these cards, if you turn on the back of the cards, you'll see these QR codes. You can scan the back of those codes and it takes you online to tell you about that property, which means that we couldn't just like make up some stuff. Like this stuff had to be real. So like we all took these different areas to research and find different people, situations that we can make real, properties that we wanted to make real. And a lot of it was just research based. And then we went from there, and we originally found a company not too far from you, actually, to help do the putting together of the actual, board and all that kind of stuff originally. And they assisted with that piece. They had done it a million times. So I will say that whenever you're doing something, find somebody who's done it before. Yes. That's going to help out a lot.
Yes.
And we literally, Alicia, what was that, like 2 months maybe?
It
And
was
we
about 2 months. Yeah.
yeah. And next thing you know, we got a game, and took a while to get it manufactured. We learned some lessons on that.
Yeah.
But we just kind of went for it. When we start running into people who have been around a lot longer and had a lot less, and I think a lot of it for us, we didn't really think about it. Like, we didn't think, will this work? Will this not? Can we finish it? Like, we just did it. You know what I'm saying? Like the naivete of a child. Like, we just did it. And I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but like we literally just went forth as if, yeah, this is gonna work. We put it together. I don't think we ever had a conversation of, will this happen? It was a definite,
Well, and just to add to Dwayne, I think, and Dwayne and I, we talk about this all the time, that I think what you see is each of us in our own right, we have a lot of things we bring to the table independently. We have a lot of experience between all of us, business, career, corporations. We have a lot of things that we have learned and that we brought together. When it all came together, it was a better product than each of us independently working on. So I would say one of the, if you want me to break down the dynamics, one of the key things is, and we're gonna always say this, we first of all, we started meeting, right? that we were consistent. We've been consistent in our meetings. And we always start our meetings off, inviting that third man in the fire, right? Jesus Christ. He's the reason why we do things. He's the inspiration. And we always kept in mind that what we wanted to accomplish, right? This was not about money. It wasn't about money. And then I would say we came up with 4 areas that we knew in society where African Americans made history during that time. We realized we wanted to start, at the time right after the Civil War, or right after emancipation, because that, to us, when you look at it, it's really a glory time in African American history. It's a renaissance. We had been bottled up as a people, and enslaved and confined, but we learned a lot because we were doing the work. And so at the time that we were able to, we started implementing that, and it worked for us. And so we wanted to expound upon that. And so the areas that we saw advancement and growth, were in government, laws, right? Real estate, money, and politics and sports. I think those were the 4 or 5. Probably a couple of those overlap. And so we just started with there. What's important, Dwayne has a wealth of innate understood knowledge about the laws and the history and the ability of those laws to have kept African Americans down. And so we kind of just dove into that. And then a lot of things that you see on the board, as we kept meeting, right, we kept at it a little bit at a time. We'd get an idea, somebody get an idea, and we'd run with it. So I just think it's just the best of 3 people's experiences coming together at the right time for the right season and for a purpose.
Oh man, that is outstanding. That is outstanding. So Alicia, you're kind of going into something I wanted to talk to you about as well. This isn't like you guys' only endeavor. You have other businesses and things that you all do. And I like to ask this to just about everybody that comes on the show. For both of you, were you born with an entrepreneurial spirit, or is it something that you kind of just developed throughout the years? And I have, a lot of people answer different ways, but I like to ask you guys that. Is it something where, I was selling lemonade when I was 4, or I tried some other things and all of a sudden something took off and I started growing in that? Like, for each of you, how did you kind of become the entrepreneurs that you are now? Alicia, I'll start.
Alicia go
or go, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, for me, it was developed over time.
Mhm.
I was not an entrepreneur at heart, mainly because I grew up in Washington, D.C., and people did not, that was not a thing. Like, you got to have your own business. That's really been a relative um, phenomenon, I think, in the last 20 years, where African Americans have said, hey, we got to get our own thing. For me, but I always liked money. I think that's like, money was a motivator. So, I was like, and so I just got involved with whatever it took to do that. I was, my parents were divorced and my mother was working. So I had to, at 15 years old, I took it upon myself to, I needed clothes. I wanted to take that burden off my mom. So I started working and I have not stopped. And I like working. I like making money, and so, but I would say, as I matured, I began to realize that I think I heard somewhere that you really need about 7 streams of income. And I took that serious. And so whatever that meant to me, it meant that I had to do something on the side. So yeah, I started my own little business. And so it was really a journey for me. I can tell you, Dr. Plummer, it's been a foundation for her, as with Dwayne, and Dwayne can tell his story.
So me, I think I had my first business at 10. So, so I remember I learned early on that there was a particular gift that I had. Like, the Lord God has allowed me to do a lot of things and be, pretty good at them. But there is one gift that I learned early that I had. So like, I used to cut yards, and I was like 10, 11 years old, and I could talk more people into getting their yard cut than cut yards that I could cut. So I got my friends with me. I'm like, look, I can find yards to cut. You guys can't find yards to cut, but you got lawnmowers. So I'll find the yards, you go cut them, right? And we'll just split the money. And I also found out that, I can only cut 1 or 2 yards a day, but I can have 20 yards a day cut.
Uh-huh.
That worked out a lot better.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned a lot of different things. At last count, me and my wife, I think, counted about 42 streams of income that we currently have.
Wow.
So yeah, so definitely an entrepreneur. I love it. I love the thrill of it. This is kind of interesting. This is going to sound kind of weird because, I did spend some time in corporate, and I loved it. I loved all of my jobs. So nothing bad to say about anything corporate. I loved it. At some point I just had to needed some more freedom. It was kind of getting in the way. I was well paid, but it was kind of getting in the way. I needed to be in this country, or I needed to be here, and I kind of couldn't make it all happen. But with that, when I look in my bank account and realize that every single dollar is a representation of me helping somebody, like, 'cause that's the only way I'm going to get paid. Like, if I help somebody else do something or provide them with a product or service, like, literally every dime is a direct result of that. I don't know, it just does something to me, so I'm definitely born entrepreneur. And what, I didn't know it. I started doing a documentary on my own family, and I didn't realize, like, even my grandfather, like, by default, I've been knowing my grandfather all my life, right? And just this last year, I'm sitting down interviewing him, found out, all the stuff that he owned, 2 restaurants and all this kind of stuff, before I came along. Wow. So I guess it's just in my blood.
Yeah. Just born into it. Yeah. And so now transition a little bit. I also love this. Like, at my church, we talked about how you can take, in the Bible, he gave 1 5 talents, and then he made 5 more, and he gave 1 2, and he made 2 more, and things like that. You guys also, it's not just about the game. If you go to, like, the Ebony-opoly page, you guys do clubhouse talks. And what I love, as soon as I saw this, generational wealth building, so it's not just about the game guys. If you check them out, they're using it as a platform, and it's great, but also then let's learn some more things as well. And I love that concept. Who came up with that? And And how's that going as well?
You know, we kind of just started that. We love empowering people. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and especially our people, you know, as Dr. Boy says, be one, you know, it's not that we hate everybody else, man. We just really love ourselves.
Yes.
And we look at our folks, they have been systematically disenfranchised over hundreds of years. Well, that has an effect, you know, that has an effect.
Yes.
And we want to help to reverse that. And both Alicia and I, we've both been privy to information that, especially financially, that is really, I mean, it's really helped our families. Let me just put it to you like that.
Yeah.
And it's helped our families and the families that are coming after us. But it's God that allowed us to have proximity to people with the information and the knowledge over decades that seeped into us. And now we want to do the same thing to other folks. Now everybody can come listen, but we are gearing it toward, you know, our people. So like this financial knowledge. Last week or the week before last, we did a deep dive into 401ks. I mean, a deep dive. Alicia broke it down, and this is, you want $1 million in your 401k that you need to do, right? Here's how you can utilize it. Here's how you can do it. I think last week we talked about business structures, how to start a business. I mean, we went all the way to, you have an idea. Then you get a DBA, a LLC, a LLP, a C Corp, a S Corp. What do you do and how do you implement it? Like literally step by step. Wow. This Friday, we're dealing with not only how to live debt free, but how to have your bills owe you. Right. I mean, like literally, if I was to pull up, let me just so I don't want to make up nothing, but if I was to pull up my right now, I'm just pulling up my electric bill. We came up with a concept called bill tricking. And for most people, they get their electric bill and they're just, oh man, I can't stand it, and it's just too high. Well, I'm pulling up my electric bill right now. It is negative $1,169.22. They owe me that. Okay. So you want to talk about sleeping really good at night? Imagine all your bills being negative. Hey, you know, and we teach people not only how to do that, but why to do that. Right. Yeah. There's a good reason why. And so we're talking about that this Friday. So we're giving up this financial game so that we can help as many people as we possibly can.
Oh man, yeah. that is awesome. Go ahead.
And so think about it. We recently worked on our mission and our vision. And that's important to us because one of the things we wanted to do with the game is there's 3 tenets to Ebonyopoly, right? The ability to be able to understand how to attain money. So there's a game, it's a game, and there are rules, and how do you manipulate the rules to obtain wealth. So that's a tenet of Ebonyopoly. Another tenet that we brought in is education, knowledge sharing. And then the other concept that's foundational to our company is we want to share that knowledge and that wealth within our community. So it just seemed like a natural area to add. And so that's why, and again, it's another thing. It's something, honestly, Dwayne was already planning to do for his family. When he asked me to come on and to share about 401ks, then of course, it's that concept of 2 people or 3 people, you know, the sum is greater than its parts. And so I was like, hey, let's make this part of Ebonyopoly. And of course he jumped on board because it fit with the mission. It fit with the mission and the vision.
Oh man, that is outstanding. Guys, listen, I could talk to these amazing folks all day. But see, they busy too now. You know, you just can't, I mean, they got schedules and stuff. So I got to start to wrap it up here. But just really quickly, if there's one thing that you would want people to get as they sit down and play Ebonyopoly, you know, 1 or 2 things, whatever, that you really would love for them to grasp, what would that be?
I would love for them to grasp the fact that, or embrace all of American history. And when I say embrace it, to understand it, to appreciate it, and to apply that. Yeah. You know, if I'm looking at a cricket and I've cut off all of his legs, and then I tell him to jump and he doesn't jump. It's not because he's deaf.
Mhm.
You know, it's not because he's lazy. I've cut his legs off.
Mhm.
Right. And so to when we look at the African-American community, you know, like we look at, you know, wealth for the African-American community is slated to go to 20 in 2050, go to zero. It's not because African-Americans are lazy. It's not because they're not capable of learning, right? It's not even because opportunities don't exist, right? The legs have been cut off, right? And when we understand that, you know, we're able to put things in place that are actually able to bring people back into play, because this is the history of the whole world, right? It's just not, you know, black. It's kind of like, you know, Hitler with Jewish people. That's the history of the whole world. Yeah. And if you go to Germany, they don't sly away from that history because they don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
And I think that we should take a really, really good look at it and to truly embrace it and understand it and move forward.
Outstanding. Alicia.
Yeah, for me, I agree everything with Dwayne, what he said, but I really would like families to walk away with this empowered. We started with the Reconstruction era because after years of enslaving our people and our talents and profiting off of our strength, and regardless of what was done to us, we are now, at that time, our people prospered. Mm-hmm. So why is that? That's because there's something inside of us that has the ability to overcome great adversity. Whatever is thrown at us, if you just, you know, I've had conversations with people about diversity, different races, and everybody wants to help us. And I've always said, we don't need your help. We just need you to get out the way. If you just get out of the way, we're going to make it. We're going to do well. And for me, I want that message to be ingrained on our children, because there's nothing worse than getting twisted or distracted by what you're supposed to accomplish in life with external factors that really don't have the power to keep you down. I want that message ingrained in families. I want our stories to be told. Every time we play this game, somebody, we've done a couple of game-a-thons, somebody can connect with one of the instances on the chance card or the community card. They have that story within their history that comes out, and there's usually healing, connection. Man, those are the things that's going to make us impervious and unable to stop. I want those things to be built into each of our families that play it, each of the children, because that's what's going to carry us forward, you know, regardless of what happens.
Wow, that is outstanding. As I end this, I love to also, I always like to ask this question: if there are any great things you guys have read, any great books that you can recommend? Because you know, come on, shareholders, you know, we read here, man. So, you know, we want to learn more, always want to learn. Anything that you guys can bring up and recommend for us.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. So my good friend, Dr. Steele, president of SCLC, says the same thing all the time. He said, you know, if you want to be successful, read, travel, and build relationships. And so I read at least a book a week, right? But I will tell you, for your audience, there's a book. It's an older book. I'll give you two books from a success perspective. One is by Dr. Anderson. Y'all probably Powernomics. He will let you know, hey, what we need to do. Let's get the money. Let's buy some politicians. We'll put it in my term. Let's get the law changed. Let's own the media. Let's own our own education. I used to live in Pikesville, Maryland, which is a Jewish community. And a lot of people don't realize Jewish people can't really live everywhere. And the reason why is that they have to live pretty much in community because there's so much in community, but they will own everything in that community. And they have done just that. And I'm not hating on them at all. I watched it, like literally eye to eye. I loved it. I love the community they had. They own the schools, the parks, the businesses, and they help each other. They don't hate everybody else. They just help each other, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And Dr. Anderson has broke that down. There's another book that if you have avid readers, this is not for the faint at heart. There's a book that most business people know as Think and Grow Rich. And people know that book. It's been a bestseller for longer than I've been alive. What a lot of people don't realize is that that was not the original book that came out. When he spent all those 20 years doing the research and all that kind of stuff, that's not the first book that came out. So Napoleon Hill, what happened is that he put out a different book. And it was a pretty exhaustive book. I've got several copies around here, 600 pages. And when he put it out, they said, hey, you're giving away too much, man. We got to pull that out. You've got to, no, you can't give up the game like that. And so he came out with like basically a Cliff Note version, a boiled down version, which is Think and Grow Rich. And just think if the boiled down version has been a bestseller for longer than I've been alive, imagine what the big version is. And that book is called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. It gives the full game. If you want to truly understand what financial, well, not even finance success in any area, if you want to know what that looks like, and we've implemented a lot of the things in that book, go get that book and read it from cover to cover several times. It'll change your life.
Awesome. Alicia, you have any recommendations for us?
I do. I have a couple. Like Dwayne said, laws and understanding the laws are very important. There's a book that is written by Richard Rothstein called The Color of Law. And it explains really the intentionality of some of the laws that are written that have affected, our ability to matriculate wealth throughout the generations. So I would recommend that one. And then there's a second book that I think is so important for this times, and it's just a tool for us to use. We could have the information, but how we communicate that information is really important, right? It's important to our ability to continue to build relationships and then to really begin. This is a season where we're going to have the opportunity to tell our stories. It's the time. Some people are ready to hear it. And this book is called Crucial Conversations When the Stakes Are High.
Oh, okay.
So I think that is a really good book right now. It's by Stephen Covey. And that really, so there are certain skills that in our community, we have not really embraced. I'm teaching people now, anybody who will listen, so I'm going to take this opportunity. For African Americans and non-African Americans, we have different focuses in our conversations. Non-African Americans are really, they value peace over truth, okay? So if in a relationship or a conversation, there's a feeling of threatened, if you want to tell the truth, you have to figure out with them how to maintain that peace. For African Americans, we value truth over peace. We don't care how you feel. We're going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Well, that causes a conflict. And so as we're talking about the lessons of our history, as we're talking about, how do we as African Americans continue to push our people forward, not always at the detriment of others, there's going to have to be the need to communicate. And so that's a really good book on how to have those important conversations when the stakes are high, which is for us probably every single day. Yeah. So those are the two I would recommend.
Oh my God, those are excellent. I got to check all those out. I want to thank you guys, Alicia Hemphill and Dwayne Washington, for coming on. Guys, you can check, it's Ebony-opoly. That's the website. You can go online as well. I love that name as also. I'm not just talking, I'm getting the game. We are going to have a game night here. My friends are getting nervous right now. I will be on my best behavior, y'all. I promise. You know, I love the QR thing. I love that concept too, to be able to scan it and
so Monty, check this out. Let me add this for your viewers, because just so people can know what this is. So that QR code. So if you look at Alicia's background, you see like railroads that are there. Those are stops on the Underground Railroad. And these properties, you know, once again, once you get them, if you scan the back, it's going to take you online to tell you about them. But what we've also done is now we start traveling around the country. So all of these little cards, like you see Nicodemus, and if you don't know why that's in the boardwalk position, then, you know, scan the back of that card, you'll see. We've been interviewing people that are in these particular places. Wow. So we were in Tulsa on Black Wall Street, in the new museum, the Black Wall Street Rising. You got to go. So we interviewed those people. We were there. You see the chess cards talking about you are one of the founding members of the Negro Leagues. We interviewed Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro Leagues Museum. And now what you'll start seeing is those interviews, those videos show up when you scan those QR codes. So nice. And we're adding more and more, trying to get to every one of them. So we're taking it to the next level with this game. So we're excited about it, and we're excited to bring it. I tell you what, Monty, if you let me know when the game is, man, I just might hop a plane and come on down.
You will. He'll do it. Trust me.
Hey, you are welcome, sir. And that would be outstanding. And I'm serious about that too. That would be so great. But guys, listen, and I want to say this now too. I don't want, especially if you're one of my viewers, won't want no hookups here. Don't be trying to hit them up like, hey man, can you just get me 2 games and a couple shirts? But no. He just spoke about it too. About different communities that help each other out, man. Help them out, all right? You will spend that money on something else frivolous that won't mean anything. Where this is not just a game, it's a history lesson. I'm expecting a lot of what I call the hidden figures effect. When I say that real quick, I remember watching the movie Hidden Figures and I was enjoying it. And then halfway through, I'm like, wait a minute, why have I never heard of these amazing women? And I started to get upset. The rest of the movie, I was really, because I'm a history guy and I had never heard. So I'm expecting a lot of that in this as well. I can't thank y'all enough. This show I feel is so important today. And I'm so glad you guys took the time out, because I know you're very busy. But please, people, check them out. Ebonyopoly. Thank you all so much for the time. This is a Shareholders podcast on the Mighty Sharp Network. You guys know where to find us as well. We appreciate all the help, but please support. This is so awesome, and I'm glad I stumbled upon it. Guys, have a great day. Be blessed. Viewers, you know what to do, man. Always be blessed and stay sharp. Thank you, guys.